Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Southeast Media Sunrise, dedicated to giving a voice to authors of all genres. I'm your host, Jodi Hockinson. Joining us remotely by phone today is Larry Jorgensen, author of the Coca-Cola Trail, People and Places in the History of Coca-Cola. Larry considers himself an old news dog with experience in both weekly and daily newspapers, writing, reporting, and photography. He has also reported on the air on both radio and TV, in addition to wire service writing, freelance, and assignment, and has owned and published a monthly magazine. He currently provides media service for clients in addition to his own writing. Welcome, Larry, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Jodi. We're looking forward to talking to you about a good subject for cooling off in the summer, Coca-Cola.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into writing and reporting.
Well, my background is media. I was brought up in a weekly newspaper, went to daily from there, and got into radio and television, and just sort of journalism has been my as I got further down the road, I realized there's some things that needed to be reported in writing. And so I got fascinated, I guess, basically with history, but current history, when I say current, things within the past 100, 200 years, and ended up writing the Coca-Cola Trail book, which actually happened because I was going to do a travel feature for a travel magazine on two of the places that are mentioned in the book. And once I got into those two places, I realized that this story is all over the country. And in fact, we're already working on a sequel. And there's just so much that it wasn't simply a travel feature. It looked like it should be a book, and that's how the book evolved. I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I've seen a lot of things that I'm trying to share with the readers in the book.
Speaking of that, I would like to read a quick little description of the book. In researching the Coca-Cola Trail, Larry spent over 2 years interviewing Coca-Cola families. He conducted extensive research in current and former Coca-Cola communities. Historic photos and photos of modern-day sites highlight each chapter. So 2 years.
Yeah, it was 2 years. It probably could have been done quicker if I'd have been able to devote, 7 days a week to it. But unfortunately, just like starving artists, starving writers need to find a way to support fiction as well. So I have some media clients I had to tend to along the way, but it still was a fascinating 2 years, and really taking that time gave me a chance to get into each community, into each chapter, get some good interviews, and I didn't feel under pressure to something immediately. It was an experience, and I think the reader will sense that when they read the different chapters of the book.
So tell us, when and where was Coca-Cola first bottled?
Well, Coca-Cola, everybody you say Coca-Cola, they think Atlanta, Georgia. Well, yeah, the syrup that makes Coca-Cola was invented in Atlanta, but it was first bottled almost, I don't want to say by accident, but by necessity in Vicksburg, Mississippi. There was a gentleman there, and that's my first chapter, relates the story in detail. He was selling the syrup at his soda fountain and also to other soda fountains in the Vicksburg, Mississippi area. And it became pretty popular. It occurred to him that if he could get this to the people in the country, and that was 1894, and you didn't just run down to the corner soda shop to get a soda. So he bought secondhand bottling equipment and started bottling Coca-Cola. He was the first to do it. He actually sent 2 cases of the first Coca-Cola that he bottled to Coca-Cola corporate in Atlanta, to the gentleman that owned Coca-Cola at that time and was making the syrup. And the gentleman replied, "Yeah, this is okay," and that was the end of that. The Coca-Cola corporate never gave much serious attention to bottling until 5 years later, and that's the story of Chattanooga, Tennessee, when two young lawyers decided they would like to try and bottle Coca-Cola. They saw an opportunity. They'd been enjoying Coca-Cola at the phone, at the local soda fountain drugstore, and they went to Atlanta and talked to the gentleman who owned Coca-Cola. When I say owned the syrup, and was making the syrup, and they suggested to him that they would like to bottle it, and they would like to obtain the rights to it. Well, it took two meetings for them to finally convince Coca-Cola owner, whose name was Asa Candler, that it would be okay, although he was hesitant. He said, I'm worried about how this will affect the taste. I don't think it's a good idea. In fact, he called bottling a back alley proposition. But I think they just wore him down. And he ultimately sold the rights to bottle Coca-Cola throughout the United States, every place except Mississippi, because he knew it was already being done there. He sold the rights for $1, and they say he never collected the dollar. And he told the two young would-be entrepreneurs from Chattanooga, if this doesn't work, don't you come crying back to me. So they go back to Chattanooga, and now they have the rights to bottle Coca-Cola, the exclusive rights to bottle Coca-Cola throughout the United States. And, all right, how are we going to do this? The old story about a dog chasing a car. What do you do with it when you take it? And so they set up a little bottling operation and realized with their limited funds that wasn't going to work. And the light came on. They said, wait a minute. We have the rights. Let's start selling territories. So they would go to a potential entrepreneur in Paducah, Kentucky, and say, we'll sell you the rights to bottle Coca-Cola within 50 miles of Paducah for $1,500. So that's how it spread. And ironically, as they did that, they required the new bottlers, of course, to use the Coca-Cola syrup to maintain the quality. But the little proviso in there was for every gallon of syrup that was sold to the bottlers, these two gentlemen in Chattanooga got a commission. So it was to their benefit to set up bottlers as well. But that's how it spread. It was entrepreneurs who saw an opportunity, bought a territory, and started bottling Coca-Cola.
So what was the initial consumer response to this new beverage?
Well, it sort of depended on the area. There's been some areas where the soda fountain sales of Coca-Cola had been pretty brisk. So those consumers responded pretty quickly and positively to the idea of the drink in a bottle. But other areas where that had not happened, and many of the companies that acquired the rights to bottle were in fact companies that were already bottling soda water, the old sarsaparilla and ginger ale and that type of thing. And that's what their customers were used to. So what these new bottlers would do when they would send out a case of bottled soda water of different flavors, they would insert a couple bottles of Coca-Cola, hoping that would be tried, sort of a sample.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that took off. Once people tried it, then pretty soon many of those bottlers were just selling bottled sarsaparilla, ginger ale, and so forth. And they got it introduced to communities that not really had the enjoyment of a soda fountain drink.
Coca-Cola has a very distinctive bottle. What's the reason for and the history of this bottle?
Well, once Coca-Cola became successful, there were a lot of people imitating it. And bottles were whatever you could get your hands on. And there were the straight type bottles. And you may recall the story about why it's called pop, because there was one type of bottle that had a stopper in it with a steel device that held the stopper. And when you pulled that device, it would pop. Well, what happened is there was a great deal of confusion. People could believe they were buying Coca-Cola, somebody else's cola. And it became a real problem. In fact, Coca-Cola one time even was successful enough to have a couple of these would-be bottlers cease and desist under court order. But they decided, Cola Corporation decided, wait a minute, we need a bottle that is Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola only. When you pick that bottle up, whether it's daytime or nighttime, you know you've got a bottle of Coca-Cola in your hands. So this was in 1915. They issued a challenge to the bottle manufacturers of the United States, and 6 of them responded and created what they hoped would be the Coca-Cola bottle. There was a competition, and the Coca-Cola bottlers at a meeting in 1915 in Atlanta, Georgia, selected the bottle that became the bottle that everybody now equates to Coca-Cola. The winning bottle maker was the Root Company from Terre Haute, Indiana. And they proceeded to make every Coca-Cola bottle for years until it got to be more than they could handle. Were sold to other glass manufacturers to also produce that same bottle. And that was just a need to put something out there that would solve the problem of competition. The confusion to the consumer and the confusion in marketing in general. Do we have a Coca-Cola or don't we? Well, then they knew they had a Coca-Cola. And that bottle is recognized worldwide, even though there's been changes, improvements, bigger sizes, and so forth. That's still the bottle that represents Coca-Cola.
What's the makeup of today's Coca-Cola bottler?
Well, today's bottler, it's interesting, and this is what I found when I was doing the book. In many cases, Coca-Cola companies were purchased and became part of a bigger company. For example, you have Coca-Cola Bottling Company Consolidated, which started out in the Carolinas about 80 years ago with a combination of less than 2 dozen bottlers. Today, that bottling corporation is the largest independent Coca-Cola bottler in the country. So that's one way it went. But another way it went is it stayed within families. And we're looking at Coca-Cola bottling plants that are now being run by 4th and 5th generation of the original family that started it. Many of those are represented in my book, and their stories are equally as fascinating as to how they got into it and the things that happened, for example, during the war when there was sugar rationing and consequently the bottlers had to cut back on their production, and just challenges that the family survived to continue to hand that down from one generation to the next. And obviously, the ones that did do that are very prosperous, and they own a piece of history. Many of them, and again in my book, we point that out. Many of them have little museums within their communities that have equipment. In fact, one of the more interesting ones is in the city of Aliceville, Alabama, and that was a Coca-Cola bottling plant, and the territory was purchased by another bottler in a larger community. And when he purchased it, after using the old plant as a warehouse for a while, he gave the building to the city. to be used as a museum. And it was a big building. It's a combination of bottling line and warehouse and so forth. But when he gave it to the city as a museum, he requested that a portion of the old bottling equipment remain on display and maintained in that museum. So if you're in Alabama, look for Aliceville, Alabama, and it's, I think, one of only two museums in the country that have the old-time bottling lines actually set up as they were at that time. Very interesting and kind of typical of Coca-Cola tradition, how it becomes valued by communities where it was started.
Tell our guests where this book can be purchased.
The book can be purchased at our website, which is the Coca-Cola Trail.com. And do not hyphenate Coca-Cola, just spell it out. It can also be purchased on Amazon. And the interesting thing, people think, well, books are sold in bookstores. But this particular book has gained a lot of attention in places that sell Coca-Cola memorabilia. You almost can't go into a antique store or a flea market without finding a piece of Coca-Cola memorabilia hanging on the wall. And many of those places are selling the book, as well as historical museums and their gift shops, and a market that I never even envisioned happening, travel places. For example, the book is for sale in the museum at the RV Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. And there's numerous other RV parks, campgrounds that have stores that sell the book. And when well, why is that happening? And then I realized people that have RVs, a lot of them are travelers. They want to go see the places that are in the book, because not only do we tell where the place is, we give them the history of what it was, in the days when it was a Coca-Cola plant. What is it now? And I had one gentleman from California emailed me earlier this year, and he said, I'm planning my summer vacation around your book. So we're finding that the travel places have become also a place where the book is available. And I'm sure that's going to expand. In fact, I had a gentleman from Indiana contact me a couple of days ago who has a KOA campground. And he said, I need to get your book in here. People are asking for it. So you never know where it'll pop up. You might find it in a country store. You might find it in a museum. And you will find it in some bookstores. A good example, one of the chapters of the book is a large chapter, obviously, about Chattanooga. Chattanooga has sort of become called the town that was built on Coca-Cola money. There are bookstores in Chattanooga that are selling it. Chattanooga is also the home to Sea Rock City and places like that, Ruby Falls, and those places that attract tourists, travelers, are very successful in the book. If you're in another place in Alabama along the coast, there's a place called the Bellingrath Gardens. Beautiful place. And ironically, it was created by a gentleman who made his fortune as a Coca-Cola bottler in Mobile, Alabama. And he created this wonderful gardens for people to see. And the book is available in his gift store. And they've gone through, I think, 3 or 4 orders since the book came out. So you never know, it'll sneak up on you someplace.
Well, looks like that's all the time we have for today. Again, anyone interested in purchasing this book can log on to thecoca-colatrail.com, and that is without the hyphen. You can also log on to semediapro.com or visit Amazon. It's available in paperback. This is Larry Jorgensen, author of The Coca-Cola Trail, People and Places in the History of Coca-Cola. What a fascinating interview. Thanks again for joining us today, Larry.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it, and as you can tell, I love to talk about history of Coca-Cola.
Well, you certainly have interesting things to say. And listeners, if you're interested in getting your book published, please visit us at semediapro.com and click on the book publishing link. This is Jodi Hockinson, host of Southeast Media Sunrise, Southeast Media Productions. Like us on Facebook at Southeast Media Productions or visit our website at semediapro.com.